Thanks, Chuck.
Well, let's bring in the other side of this conversation inside the Republican Party. I've got Mike Needham here. He's president and CEO of Heritage Action. Good morning to you.
Great to be with you, Chuck.
Do you, obviously, you key voted this, said Republicans or conservatives, if they want to be seen as a conservative, shouldn't have voted for this. What did you want to see attached to this debt ceiling?
Well, I thought the question that you asked Congressman Dent at the end was very interesting, right? If you don't want to have votes on the debt limit, if you just want to be on a status quo autopilot form of government, why not get rid of the debt ceiling? And the truth is, there's no politician who's actually going to go to the American people and say, look, we are going to uninstall this fire alarm that Congress 100 years ago put in our nation's
And that's what you believe
house.
it is. You believe
it's a fire alarm.
And that's why you think Congress should keep this power.
Exactly. And you say we borrowed $17 trillion of debt. A year ago, we set the fire alarm to go off at that level. Should we do something to change course? And deeming the debt limit passed or just passing clean debt limits, I think, does a disservice to the American people in not forcing that conversation about what are we going to do about a nation's fiscal house that's frankly on fire.
So what did you want to see attached to it?
Well, I think it should have been something big and bold. In 2011, you united the Republican conference around cut, cap, and balance. You could have entitlement reforms. Any proposal that goes forward and actually rises to the level of challenge that our nation faces today is the type of debate the American people deserve. If you look at something that's, just a fake food fight, which I think is what some people in Washington wanted to start, if you look at a clean debt limit that does nothing to get our nation back on track, that's not serious. That's
all the proposals that I went through, you thought those were small ball?
Yeah, well, they were fake food fights because everybody knew. The congressional leadership went on the Sunday shows a couple weeks ago, and they said, look, we're not going to hold the debt limit hostage. We're not going to, they throw around
so they knew
false
these were show votes. So you feel like they sent the message that it was a show vote.
So that they can pretend to be fighting. They can go home to their voters and say, look, we tried to get the Keystone Pipeline, but all the while they were signaling it was going to be a clean debt limit increase, and nobody wants to be part of those games.
All right. Where Senate Conservative Fund wants him out. Tea Party Freedom Works called it an all-time low for Speaker Boehner. Red State said his entire agenda is aimed at fooling conservatives, placating his Democratic buddies. Where is Heritage Action on Speaker Boehner?
Well, we don't get involved in those types of things. We're focused on policy. What we do know is that there's a bipartisan consensus in Washington, D.C. that says we would rather just keep the status quo. It works for us as politicians. It works for 33,000 lobbyists on K Street. And the Speaker has 6 times in the last year decided that he's going to use that bipartisan consensus for the status quo to advance legislation rather than going to the American people and presenting the choice that you have between a conservative vision going forward that I think can unite America and this kind of broken status quo.
Now, Boehner would argue, and I'm sure they've argued to you privately, did you see the government shutdown? Did you see the impact on the Republican Party? If you want Republicans to control the Senate, if you want any shot at a conservative agenda, you can't shoot yourself in the foot.
And everybody would agree with that. I think that the government shutdown was ultimately about saying to the American people there are certain things that need to be fought for, and one is our American health care system, and I think that was a good thing in the Republican Party.
You still believe the shutdown was a good thing?
Well, I think that, as I said last time I was on the show, if I were running for election in November of 2014, I would want to be able to say that I did absolutely everything I could to stop this Obamacare law from going into effect. And I think that the Republican Party should be able to go into this election and talk about the big, bold ideas that they think will make America better. We had 9 members of Congress over at Heritage on Monday talking about big, bold ideas. Jeb Henschling was there talking about shutting down Fannie and Freddie. Tom Price about health care reform. That's what the party should stand for.
I want to give you a chance to respond. There's some Republicans that have taken some shots at Heritage. Devin Nunes. I don't look to them. Hopefully they get back to a point when they're being productive. Mike Simpson, Idaho. Since they became so political, a lot of people said, I don't need that anymore. Then you had Richard Burr, not exactly a moderate Republican from North Carolina. I'm not sure that I've ever seen them listen to anybody. They can have all the summits they want to, but I don't think that makes a squat of difference. What do you say to this? And, Orrin Hatch was pretty tough on you guys on my show, I think a couple of months ago, believing you guys led them down a shutdown path that was mistaken. What do you say to these folks?
Sure, look, I think that if there are politicians who just want to go forward and preserve the status quo, deem debt limits passed, not pass fundamental tax reform because it might upset somebody on K Street, we're probably not going to have the best working relationship with them. If there's big, bold politicians who want to go to the American people and present them a choice, like Ted Cruz is on energy in a speech he gave at Monday at Heritage, like Tom Price is on Obamacare, like Jeb Henschling is on Fannie and Freddie reform, then those are people that we're going to be on the battlefield with every single day, and we think that the American people will be inspired to finally see politicians who aren't trying to have fake food fights. They're not trying to have a vote that they can turn into a 30-second TV commercial. They're actually trying to change the course of history, and then that's what we're looking for, and we have a lot of friends that we would look forward to working with on that.
Mike Needham, the President and CEO of Heritage Action, thanks for coming on this morning. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.